And there we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Off the Post. I'm your, I guess, sort of host now, Jen. I don't know. We haven't quite really decided that yet, but we'll just go with it for now. Today we're going to be recapping week 3 of the NWSL, looking at week 4, and maybe one or two other news items that have come up within the last few hours. Before we do that, let's go to our panel of one and check in with Karen. Karen, how you doing today? What have you been up to?
It's been a day, hasn't it? That aside, I'm all right. It's my mom's birthday, so I have stuff to look forward to later tonight, so that's good.
Yes, happy birthday, Mrs. B. Hope it's a good one. You're probably not watching this, but anyway. No, so anyway, before we get into the recapping the action, was last night, either last night or it was before the yesterday's Champions League game. Grant Wall was doing one of its insider segments, and he revealed that the whole Mallory Pugh saga continues to drag on. She had met with some officials from Washington, but is still preferring Portland. She also has an offer on the table from PSG. There have been some other clubs who've shown interest in it, Seattle, Orlando, and Houston. Karen, I want to get your initial thoughts. Do you think Mallory Pugh ends up in Portland? And if she doesn't, which of those 3 teams do you think is the most likely destination for her?
Well, Portland is apparently Portland already made an offer, and Washington Spirit said no. I'm assuming that offer was a pretty good one. I mean, Mal Pugh is kind of a get. So I don't know if Portland made an offer and Washington Spirit said no. I'm assuming that there isn't going to be anything that Portland can do to get her over there. So I'm assuming that Portland is not going to be where she ends up. So out of those 3 teams, Seattle, Orlando, Houston, I would say not Seattle. I don't think they have enough to trade, to put it bluntly. And I don't see Harvey or the Predmores really looking to make big trades for a player like that, even if they could use her. As far as Orlando, I don't see it really there. They have Marta. They already have done a lot that have gotten, like Morgan there, Marta, Krieger, Harris. I think that they're not going to have enough to make the trade either. So, like you said, probably Houston.
Okay. Looking at the Houston roster, what trade would you, if you were the Houston GM, if you were, I guess now Randy Waldrom's the GM, Brian Ching is no longer with the Dash organization. If you were Randy Waldrom, what do you think would be a good enough offer to get Pugh?
If I were him, I wouldn't do it. Honestly, even if it is Mal Pugh. But I would say, like, for Pugh, the type of player that you would have to trade would be a player like Daly or Ojai, and those are their top 2 performers as it stands right now. I don't know, maybe maybe Carly Lloyd. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh so hard. I don't know. That it's such a, because I keep thinking, like, if I were him, I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it because he has such good pieces. And I don't know if bringing in Mal Pugh would change anything, because honestly, I think Ojai and Daly are playing at the top of their game right now. Even, last week's game against Seattle aside, that was just one of those things, bad organization. But I just don't, I can't see any trades being enough, honestly. Or I can't see Mal Pugh being enough for those trades.
All right, here are my thoughts. First of all, I'm glad North Carolina has not been mentioned as one of the teams. We have a perfectly good team the way it is. Mm-hmm. I don't want to have to give up any of the 2015 class or some of the other players that were brought in to get her. I having heard some stuff that has come out that has not painted her in the most flattering of let's just put it that way. Why mess with the team chemistry that has been going so well? I'm glad the Courage are apparently not interested. I do think I will agree that Houston is probably the best destination. I will agree that it would probably take someone of the stature of Carly Lloyd because, as we all know, she hasn't been super pumped about being in Houston and would probably prefer to be closer to home. And by home, I mean James Galanis. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of iffy, but U.S. soccer is going to be desperately wanting to keep her in the U.S. rather than let her go to PSG. Although it does kind of surprise me because the PSG coach has kind of gone on record saying he doesn't really want to bring in any more U.S. players because of issues with the federation in the past. So I'm a little surprised to put an offer on the table for her. Either way, nothing concrete has been decided on. It's just another development in this saga that I kind of want to be over, regardless of where she lands and who goes where. So yeah, we'll be keeping an eye on it, and hopefully we'll come to a resolution. We can stop talking about it and move on. So,
is it mean to say that I don't want her in Seattle?
I don't want her in North Carolina, so I don't blame you one bit for feeling that way. Yeah, it's. I mean, she's got a lot of potential, but we've seen a lot of players come up with a lot of potential and hasn't really panned out. So,
yep.
I mean, that's just yeah. Stay away, Malik. Don't go anywhere near this mess. Just keep yourself out of it, please, and thank you from a Courage fan. All right, so moving on to the games of week 3, we are going to start with the TV game, Portland versus Chicago. Karen, your thoughts on Portland versus Chicago?
Well, Portland continued to do the thing that I told them not to do, and that was the mistakes in the back line, bad back passes, losing the ball in like really, really terrible areas. And they keep lucking out. Like they do that, and then the team doesn't finish. So Chicago didn't finish all of those chances that Portland gave them. It's gonna come to a point if they don't fix that, they're going to their luck is gonna run out, and they're going to get smoked. So they need to fix that. I think, like the second half, they kind of started fixing it a little bit. I think Ali Wagner even commented that they were starting to fix it. But you cannot do stuff like that in this league, especially a team like Portland that has so many huge players and big pieces. Like that was just really disheartening to see. As far as the penalty that got Portland their goal, it was just like a bad bounce into Press's hand. That sucks. It happens. But you can't give Portland a penalty because if Nadia Nadim is on the field, she is going to make it because that girl probably takes the best penalty kicks I've seen, like, ever. So do not do not foul Portland in the box when Nadia Nadim is on the pitch. So just, you know, future for all of those other teams, if you're watching. Portland, I think, seems like they're capable of being a dynamic attacking team. And we see like kind of bits and pieces of it with Sinclair and Long. Shim, when she's on the field, is pretty dynamic. But when your only goal is through a penalty kick that was off of a like freak lucky bounce, that's not good. You have to score goals to win games. As far as Chicago, they didn't really have the finishing that they needed. Like I said, all of those mistakes that Portland made, Chicago should have scored on those. And we would have seen a completely different game if they had. Their back line is pretty solid, I think, still. I think having JJ in the center of the field instead of as a fullback has really improved their attack, and we still saw it in this match. I mean, they were all over the Portland back line. They just didn't score goals, and that's what you need to do to win a game. French made a couple of those similar mistakes that we keep seeing with the bad passes and things like that, but for the most part, when she's called upon to do something huge, she's done it. So that's good. Let's see. Press needs to get into the attack, I think, for Chicago a little bit more. She's been kind of absent, and I think that they need to start trying to bring in Sofia Huerta. She got the assist with JJ last week, right? I mean, yeah, so she's somebody I think that will add to their attack. So I think that they need to just finish. And as far as Portland, they need to work on their defense. It's not just the bad back passes, but like speed is a huge issue for them, and that showed big time against like press. So yeah, it was a pretty even game. I think Chicago honestly inched Portland out as far as, I mean, Portland had more possession and they had more completed passes, but Chicago had more shots on goal. And I think if they had put those in, we would have seen something completely different.
Real quick question. The challenge by French on that ball that kind of ended with her and Press getting smacked together, penalty or not in your mind?
That was a penalty for sure. It didn't look like it at first because of the camera angle, but the more that they showed the replays over and over and over, I was like, that's a penalty. She took her down in the box. It was feet first. She just grabbed her and she just boop. And that is a penalty for sure. So, I mean, Portland escaped big time with that one. I think that that would have been a huge game changer if they had gotten that penalty call.
I think Portland is riding their luck big time.
Yep.
I think they have gotten very fortunate in both their wins that A, their opposition couldn't finish, and B, that they couldn't punish those mistakes. They couldn't punish the mistakes that Portland made.
Yep.
I don't think they're as good as their record. And I think they're going to have a game where they're going to run into a team that is in the zone that will punish those mistakes. It is going to happen. I feel it. I don't know when, but it is going to happen. And when it does happen, if Parsons cannot make adjustments to ensure that it doesn't happen, I think they're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having said that, they are missing some personnel.
Yeah.
You know, besides Tobin Heath, they're also missing the option of Dagny off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
They're missing Reynolds, who is probably their fastest defender.
Yes.
Maybe maybe head-to-head with her and Magus, but she is a very fast defender. They're missing some parts that I think might help clean up some of the issues that they've had. If they get them back, maybe some of those mistakes don't happen. But right now, they don't have them. You know, they're not going to have Tobin Heath this weekend. Maybe not next weekend either. And I think Parson said the others are 2 to 3 weeks out. They had better hope that they do not get blown out until those pieces return and they can maybe fix some things.
Yeah.
Now on to Chicago. This is a team that a lot of people had picked to, if not win the Shield, to finish the finish in the top 4. I think across the board we all had Chicago in the top 4 from either finishing the Shield all the way down to 4th, but I don't think anyone had them missing the playoffs. I honestly don't know if they played like a playoff team. You know, Kristen Press is seemingly in a major funk in front of goal. Nobody else can seem to find the back of the net except for Julie Ertz, who has mostly been a center back in her professional and international play. And it's only recently that we've seen her moved up into midfield. That needs to be sorted out. They have to start scoring, and you know, not just, oh, let's give it to Press and she'll pull it out, because she hasn't looked capable of that. They need to find a way for somebody other than Kristen Press to start scoring.
Yep.
I think once that I think if that happens, then it'll maybe free up that space for Press to get out of whatever funk she's in, because she is in a serious funk right now, and it's not looking like she's going to get out of it anytime soon. And absolutely, all day should have been a penalty. I mean, you watched the replay and saw how close her head came to hitting that goalpost. She is very fortunate she did not get injured on that, and you know, possibly even maybe a red card. I don't know. That's kind of that iffy territory, but yeah, it was just one of those games that it was kind of a dull game, bit of a dull game to watch. In all honesty, wasn't super exciting. Wasn't really that impressed with either team, to be honest. So congrats, I guess, on getting the points, Houston. Chicago, better luck next week. Now we're gonna go to the game that made me super excited. North Carolina versus Orlando. Karen, on to you.
Honestly, and this isn't just to talk crap on a certain team, but like there was no way that Orlando was going to win this game. You just knew it when it started, and not just because 5 minutes in Courage scored a goal, but like there was just no way that team was going to beat Courage. And as mean as it is, it's real talk. Marta was just like setting the meal out on the table for her teammates over and over and over and over. And either there was just nobody that was there, or they just weren't putting it away. And it was so frustrating to watch, even as somebody who's not a fan of the team. And that's why I've said from the beginning that it is awesome that Marta is in the NWSL, but Orlando Pride fans, do not think that she's just going to single-handedly carry you to winning the Shield. Like, that's not how this works. I mean, it was chance after chance after chance. She was a part of every single chance that Orlando had, and it just didn't happen. That said, there was that one iffy, maybe it was a goal that I think goal line technology probably would have told us for sure. When I think Spencer crossed it in, and then Marta came and did this like really sick volley, and D'Angelo came up huge, but then it made that like bounce. And I mean, 50-50. I don't know if it was over or not, but that defender looked like she was reaching pretty far to save the ball. And I think goal line technology would have told us for not that NWSL is going to be anywhere close to goal line technology in the next like 5 years. But I think that would have told us. And I think maybe if it had been counted as a goal, I think maybe we would have seen something different. But I mean, Orlando's offense just isn't there besides Marta. I mean, that said, Camilla's goal was kick-ass. I mean, that was a sick goal, and she did that all on her own. So I mean, they have the pieces there to score goals. It's just that they're not scoring goals. So I mean, that's not good for Orlando Pride when you have a player like Marta who's giving them a feast and they're not taking the bite. So that's something they need to work on for sure. As far as North Carolina Courage, I mean, they were the same team that we've been seeing in the last 2 games. Creating really good chances and then scoring goals. And then, of course, I don't really want to talk about it, but I feel like we should at least address the fact that Ashlyn Harris made those comments to the media, because I don't want to slam her personally, because that's not what we do here. But I do think that when you are going to talk about the things that your teammates should have done better, I think a better way to talk about it is addressing it with your team in private. Especially do that first instead of going to the media, because that was pretty unprofessional. And, you know, for all of the defensive, not marking, things like that, issues that Orlando's backline had, I mean, every single Courage goal was because the player was not being marked, except for the penalty, obviously. I mean, there were just so many chances that the Courage had where there was no Orlando defense anywhere near them. And they were free to just take whatever shot they could. And luckily, Ashlyn Harris was there for most of them. But it's just, yes, there are a lot of problems with Orlando's defense. But, oh God, she talked about Marta. And I was just like, you don't talk smack on Marta when it's only her 2nd game with your team. She's literally just gotten to Orlando like a week ago. And it was just like, God. So yeah, that sort of situation, like I said, I don't want to personally attack her because, you know, people in the heat of the moment get upset about things. And she did have to make a lot of saves that she shouldn't have had to. But you don't do that stuff to the media. You do it behind closed doors, in the locker room, things like that, just because it fosters better team chemistry. I'm assuming her team wasn't too happy with her after reading what she said. So, I mean, just as a captain especially, I think there are better ways to handle that situation. But, yeah.
All right, first the bad. I will agree that it was absolutely not the time or the place or the avenue with which to express frustration. It was a poor decision. You know, it came off really badly.
Yeah.
And I understand that she is the captain, and you know, Tom Sermon's like, oh, here, whatever. I don't think he particularly cares who is the captain. You know, from what I've read, it seems like he's just like, oh, I have to give it to somebody here, Ashley. Now that being said, you know, this isn't the first time she's done this. There was a game ironically, against under the banner of what the Courage used to be when she was with Washington, where they got beat pretty badly. And in the post game after that, she was very, 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 very hard. It wasn't as bad as what she did now, but it was still pretty, whoa, she said that? And a few days later, the coach ended up getting tossed out. Now that's not going to happen here because she didn't really go at, it didn't really imply that any of it was Tom Simoni's fault. But having said that, absolutely not the right time, absolutely not the right place. She comes off to me as somebody who should not speak to the media right after games.
Maybe it's a goalkeeper thing.
Well, she's not the first one, but there have been other goalkeepers who have spoken to the media after games and have not come out looking like a gigantic butthead. So I think it's probably just her thing. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah. So yeah, just not in good taste, and I really hope she's discouraged from speaking to the media before she's had a chance to cool down, because that's just not a good look. I mean, and it's been rehashed to death. So I'll move on from that. This is the first game that I felt North Carolina's back line looked a little wrong. I mean, granted, it was Marta, but
yeah.
D'Angelo was far busier in this game than she was in the previous two games combined. She really did have to do a lot of work, and it was because the back line was getting picked apart a little bit. I think maybe she could have done a little better on that Camilla goal. I think she was trying to cheat too far to the near post, and Camilla cut her off, and by the time she scored, it was out of her reach. But still a great goal by Camilla. I will tip my hat to her because that was a really great strike. But yeah, but Abby Dahlkemper saving that shot off the line after D'Angelo slowed it down enough. Bravo, Abby. Bravo. She's probably has improved her game more than any other defender in the league in the last two seasons, because in her rookie season, she would do something really stupid about once a game that I wanted to smack her upside the head for. And this season, I think she has probably been maybe top 2 or 3 defenders in the league. She has really grown so much as a defender, as a player. It's been great to watch. It was great to see both Lynn and Jess get on the score sheet. We missed that. Wyss making the penalty, great, but I still would prefer to see somebody else take them when we get them, because I'm not super confident in her taking them every time. I don't know, maybe Dahlkemper, Williams, somebody else. No, I don't want to have to be sweating every time I see Sam Mio step up to the penalty spot. Let's see, what else? Yeah, Orlando, you've got to get your act together defensively. I don't know if it's the defenders, not really working well. I don't know if it's, not being commanded well by Harris, because she's just as at fault for the defensive mistakes as the defenders, because part of a goalkeeper's job is organizing back line, and they're not organized. I don't know if it's because they're just not listening to her. I don't know what she's telling them doesn't make sense. I don't know. But it's something they have to get together, and they have to get it together, or by the time Alex comes back from France and Rachel Hill gets out of school, it's going to be too late to save their season. So Orlando, got to get your act together. And as far as their offense, it, like you said, it was just so painful watching Marta set up chance after chance after chance. I mean, painful from an Orlando fan side. I'm happy they didn't go in, obviously, but from that perspective, it's so painful to watch her continue to give her teammates all these good opportunities, and then it's just a little bit high, a little bit wide, and just a hair away from getting a foot onto it over and over and over again. So, I mean, I'm hopeful from their point of view that it does come, that it'll just take some time, but they got to do better. It was just not a good. It was not a good performance all around, and it was just they deserved to lose. Simple as that. Um, so moving on to a game that I'm sure Karen did not enjoy one at all. Boston versus Seattle. Go for it. Have your wine.
Nah, I'm not gonna. But I do want to say this, and I want to say this to Boston fans, and then also people who are anti-Reign fans, and that is that Boston is not an underdog this season. They were last season and the seasons before, but they are not an underdog this season. And I think when people keep calling them underdogs over and over and over, that's almost a little bit disrespectful to their team because they are good. And they've proven that you have teams that have kind of like gradually improved over the seasons. But I mean, Boston has kind of stayed down here. And in this season alone, in 3 games, they've like jumped way up here. And I mean, we all kind of figured that was going to happen. They got those draft picks that were really, really good. Rose Lavelle deserved the Player of the Month for April. She has had a really good 3 games. And they are not underdogs. And that said, when you have a Seattle team that last week they beat Houston 5-1, but keep in mind Houston was incredibly like just all over the map. And Waldrum made some bad coaching decisions, and that was not Houston at their top performance level. So I mean, Seattle came into this away game, traveled. They were disjointed. They weren't connecting. They were sluggish, slow. They were not the team that we saw last week. And it was the same personnel. So I don't know what happened, if it was just one of those games where they were just all off. And that is something that happens to Seattle. You have the entire team tends to be off at the same time when they're off. And that's just how Seattle works. They're like one brain. And when one person is off enough, everybody is. When one person is on enough, everybody is. And that's just how that team works, which is a struggle if you're a Reign fan. But as far as Boston, they did everything that they needed to do and then some. They were really dynamic in the attack. They were really good in defensively. And they're proving they're not underdogs. When Boston plays a team in this season, it's not going to be, the team that's not Boston, that they're going to win. It's not going to be like that. So, I mean, people need to stop calling them underdogs and treating that team with respect now because they're good. Dowie has found her stride. Leon, I think she's had some trouble with like finishing and things like that in the last couple of games, but she had a really solid game. And Lavelle is doing awesome things. And they have Abby Smith, who is a legitimately good keeper, and they've just signed her. So they're solid, and they have more players coming. I mean, Morgan Andrews is coming in when she finishes all of her schooling and stuff like that. And so, I mean, they're just going to get better. So I think people need to take that into consideration when they're making their predictions, that Boston is not going to win, or Boston's not going to lose every single game this season. That's not going to happen. And Seattle has been in the position now for the last season and now in this season that they're not going to win every single game. So yeah, I was sad watching this game, but at the same time, I was kind of like, yeah, I mean, they didn't play the game that they were supposed to play, and Boston kicked butt. And so that's the scoreline that you have to expect when one team came to play and the other team didn't. So hopefully Seattle figures that out before they play against Portland, and maybe they can be the team that jumps on Portland's mistakes in the back line and make them pay for it. That's my hope, at least. But yeah, Boston's a good team. So it's going to be interesting to see how that team goes forward, and if Seattle can pick themselves up and maybe use this as a catalyst to kick ass this weekend. So we'll see.
Okay, first of all, Boston, congrats on finally breaking your rain hoodoo, because that was their first ever win against Seattle. They'd played 10 times before in the past 4 seasons and had only gotten a draw. The others were losses.
Yeah.
So, it's good to see a team finally get a win over another team that they had struggled against. So, good job, Boston, for that. I don't know where that version of Adriana Leone has been hiding for the 4 seasons of NWSL, but man, oh man, did she pick a good time to bring that out, because that was probably the best game she's ever played in the NWSL, whether it was with Boston previously or Chicago or with the Flash last season. You know, she didn't really have a performance that couldn't be described as better than average. Mm-hmm. And then she comes out with that. So it's always good to see a player who hasn't had the best of times and we finally have that really strong statement game. And that was definitely a statement game for her. She was involved in all 3 of Boston's goals.
Yeah.
So kudos to her. Great to see Rose Lavelle get her first goal. Glad to see that. Yeah, that was not a good performance by Seattle. I mean, that was probably one of the worst performances I've seen from Haley Kottmeyer in a while. I mean, she did have some good moments, but she was just off all night. I don't know what it was, but she didn't look like the keeper that some people have been clamoring to maybe get a national team look. Just not a good performance for her. And again, like we talked about with Ashlyn Harris in Orlando, that her back line didn't look that great either. Boston picked them apart. And when Seattle did get chances, I mean, Abby Smith was right there. You kind of have to wonder what would have happened last season had she not gotten hurt so early on, and they had maybe played her in more minutes. Maybe they would have picked up a few more points. I don't know if it would have been enough to move up bottom of the table, but considering what they've picked up, what finishing at the bottom of the table got them, I think it was probably, I think in the long run, not having her, having that poor season, set them up for success, possibly even this season, but, I think they have a chance at the playoffs this season. I want to see what they do in 2018, when all of these young players have had a season to develop. That will be a really fun thing to watch, to see what they do next season. To see if they can be even better. Show that this was not just a one-time thing, that they are actually not the whipping girls of the league in easy beats. Although last season, they did win 3 games. 2 of them were shutouts against Kansas City, so wasn't an easy 3 points for everybody, because the Blues couldn't seem to find the back of the net against them. So But yeah, just a forgettable performance by Seattle, and hope they get their stuff together. Great performance by Boston. I hope they don't have their stuff together this weekend. Just this weekend and the other 2 times they play the Courage. So they can do whatever they want. Just don't have your stuff together against Carolina. So yeah, it was. And another thing, go 90. Shame on you for screwing up and making me miss that Rose Lavelle goal live. Because she was about to score, and then it switched over to the Washington-Houston game because apparently somewhere in the district
that did happen, yeah.
It kept switching feeds. I'm like, no! I wanted to see that live! F you! But yeah, that was the only real downer, was having to watch that after the fact because Go 90 decided to screw up again. So yeah, I mean it is what it is, Great performances all around by Boston. Seattle, do better next time. Moving on. Washington versus Houston. First ever win for Houston at the Plex. Karen, go.
Let's start on a high note. Ojai has 13 goals in 13 games, and that is freaking radical. It's ridiculous. She's ridiculous, and she's awesome and amazing. And Ojai and Daly are a pretty scary duo up top. The chances that they were creating for themselves were just like, it was like over and over and over, like poor Steph LeBay, basically. That poor woman had to do so much work because of Ojai and Daly. And I think just in general, the Houston attack was really, really good, except for maybe some finishing. But of course, LeBay is one of the top keepers in the league right now, and she is literally the only reason why. Not the only reason. I'll tell you why in a second, but she's one of the top reasons why it was only 1-0 instead of a lot more. Also, I think Estelle Johnson has really been a very good defender. It doesn't show in statistics because Washington doesn't have, they did not start this season out very well, but Estelle Johnson has made some really big plays when she has had to. And she's also been really good with her placement. Just watching the game, I was trying to kind of keep my eye on her because I've been interested in her performance, and she was really good. You can't win a game with one really, really good defender and a good goalkeeper. And that's where Washington fell, I think. As far as Houston, I think, they definitely fixed things from last week. They weren't as completely stymied in like every single aspect of the field like they were last week. They were creating chances. They didn't do that last week. Their defense was a lot more solid, which it wasn't last week. So, I think it'll be interesting to see how they continue to grow. If they improve in their midfield. I don't know what's going to happen when Carly Lloyd comes back and when Morgan Bryan comes back, how it will affect the chemistry of the team, if it will be positive or negative. But I think their midfield probably needs some help because Daly and Ojai have been on fire, but you can't really do anything with 2 on-fire forwards and nobody feeding them. So they need to improve there. As far as Washington, you have 7 injured players. That's like almost half your team. You just kind of got to go out there and do what you can. And, like I said, it was only 1-0. So, they were working their butts off. It's just really hard to watch a team have that many hurdles this early in the season, because that's not how you want to start your season. So I just feel bad for that team. But I mean, 1-0 was a pretty kind result, considering how many chances Houston got. So that way you kind of have to give Washington credit, or at least Steph LeBay credit. So yeah, but like all of that aside, I thought it was a pretty entertaining game. Unlike the Portland game, that was not as entertaining. I would even say that was boring. So I mean, yeah, Washington at least put on an okay performance considering how many players they have gone and all of the craziness that they've been dealing with off the field. So yeah.
All right. I think this season with Washington has shown just how good of a defender Estelle Johnson is.
Yeah.
She got a lot of crap in 2015 because she had some not so good performances. I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten when the first season of NWSL, when she played for the Flash, and they had a back line that conceded the fewest goals in the league.
Yeah.
Everybody was talking about Brittany Taylor. She was getting a lot of attention because of her set piece prowess. Estelle Johnson was picked as the Flash Defender of the Year by her teammates, by the coaches, by the media. Not Brittany Taylor, Estelle Johnson. Which I think kind of surprised a lot of people. But looking back on that season, it really wasn't too surprising because she didn't get much of the attention, but a lot of the reason why they were so strong defensively is because she was back there cleaning up messes before they got to AD France. So I just wanted to point that out to people that, you know, this isn't just some new thing. Girl can actually defend.
Mm-hmm.
She is it's taken her a while because she did take 2014 off. It's taken her a while to get back to that form. She's in that form now, and the Spirit is very lucky to have her. Same with Steph LeBay. I mean, we saw some of the off-season drama, and she was very close to just saying peace out, and then, you know, what might have actually been a blessing in disguise. Kelsey Wyss gets injured, and they need a goalkeeper, and she was persuaded to stay, which I think probably this season would be better for them because I don't know if Wyss would have those great performances week after week that LeBay has had. So I think Washington is a little bit fortunate that she did decide I'm staying. So yeah, that's the good. You know, Houston, oh hi, another great goal. Like you said, girl's been on fire. You know, it's amazing how it works when you have your actual number one keeper and internationally a very experienced international defender back in. And look at that, they got a clean sheet. It's amazing how that works. I think over these 3 games, it's kind of shown to me and to a lot of people that Lydia Williams should be the starter. And if Randy Waldrum's having this, I don't know who the starter is, he needs to wake the hell up and start watching some game tape because Jane Campbell is not ready to start in the NWSL. She needs time to watch and learn from Williams because Williams has just been better. You know, stats don't lie most of the time. I mean, they can be twisted, but they normally don't lie. You know, it was just one of those things. It was okay. You know, I thought actually in the second half, Washington did come out a little bit better. They looked better. I thought there might have been a chance they might have gotten one, but Lydia Williams was there to say, not this time. Yeah, I mean, I really don't have much else to say that you haven't said. Another good result for Houston. I still don't think they're as good as their record. I think they're another team that's kind of living a bit dangerously. Washington, you did the best you could with how many players you got on the shelf. And yeah, I mean, I don't really have much else to say. Final game of the week. Oh boy. Sky Blue versus Kansas City. Snore. Karen, we'll go to you.
I actually thought it was a pretty high energy game. Yeah, at least, okay, towards the end. The end was pretty exciting because everybody was getting chances left and right. But I don't know. It was just one of those games where you knew one of them was going to score at some point. You just didn't know how it was going to happen. I mean, if you went by the way the other games have gone, you probably could have said there's going to be a handball in the box and somebody's going to get a penalty. But that didn't happen. I think Sky Blue is capable of being really dangerous when they have a player like O'Hara and they have Rocky Rodriguez, who I thought like really turned on the Jets towards the end of the game and made a lot of chances for her team. And again, I'm waiting for O'Hara and Galton. See, I'm sorry, like the commentator messed me up that first game against Seattle because he went between Galston and Galton, and now it's like in my brain. But her and O'Hara have they could make beautiful soccer magic together, and it's not happening, and it's driving me insane. As far as FCKC, they had some really good chances, even with Groom having broken her rib in the last game, having A-Rod out. I think that they were still capable of creating some chances. I think Sid LaRue had a couple of chances. I mean, honestly, her timing on runs, she still needs to improve on that because she's been struggling with that from like the beginning of time. So, I mean, she could have had at least 2 goals if she had timed her runs right. Because she's such a speedy player, she could wreck anybody's defense. But like I said, she really needs to work on timing so that she's not offside with no S. Sorry, I know people get very angry about that. They really do. As far as defense, I really think that FCKC still has a really good defense. They kind of floundered in that goal, weren't marking, but dude, like I was watching Yale Averbush has some wicked set pieces. Like she's really good at set pieces. And I think that Kansas City can really work off of that. I mean, Brune almost got a goal off of one of Averbush's set pieces. It's just that Sheridan was having a really good game and goal. So, I mean, that's a really good sign for Sky Blue. The fact that they have a rookie goalkeeper who's playing pretty smart and mature, and she's had some really good placement and really good decision making. Because that means if they keep her around, they're going to have a rookie who's just going to continue to get better. So that's good for them. I think Barnhart was kind of a little bit off here and there, which is new for her. I mean, keepers have games sometimes. Even keepers who are proven almost flawless, still have flaws here and there. So honestly, it was just really unlucky for Kansas City when you give up a goal that late in the game. And then they almost got it back, but then it was called offsides, and it's just sucky. But yeah, I think it was kind of boring for the first bit, and then towards the end it got more exciting. But yeah, I think FCKC has the pieces to beat teams like Sky Blue. It's just that they didn't this time because they didn't put their chances away or got called offside. So,
all right. Sydney Leroux is a good player. That system was not the right system to have her be at her best. She is not good as a lone striker in the 4-2-3-1. It doesn't work for her. She's a very different player from A-Rod, who was great as the lone striker in the 4-2-3-1. That was problem number one.
mm-hmm.
And part of that was, losing A-Rod for the season, not having room for this game. The offensive options were kind of limited, so he tried to go back to what worked. And Sydney Leroux is not a player who whose game is built for that system. So I think maybe he was trying to shore up the midfield a little bit, and it cost him up top. I think in that case he would have been happy to walk away with a draw. Maybe he'll sneak one in late. So yeah, if Coach Flacco, if you're planning on if you have Sydney Leroux as your only option, don't play a 4-2-3-1. Try a 4-4, try a 4-4-2 diamond. Maybe try that. See if that works. You still have the strength in the center of the midfield, but you have two strikers up top. Maybe start Ratcliffe. Leroux needs a partner up top. She cannot play as a lone striker. Now, having said that, yes, this game was really, really boring. Everybody kind of saw when they saw who all was missing, like, this game is going to be very boring, and it was. Just neither team could really get it going. A lot of turnovers from both teams. One of those games that you look at it and go, okay, is something going to happen?
Yeah.
And something did happen very late on. Kansas City has not had the best record of defending set pieces in their history. I think there was a game in the first season when they were at Jersey where they had like a 2-0 lead, and then poor set piece defending cost them 2 goals or something like that. And then they had that, and then the Betos goal from 2015 came on a set piece. So, it's kind of one of those things where they have a habit of giving up costly goals on set pieces, and they need to fix that, because that is going to keep costing them points, and points are something they really can't really afford to lose. So yeah, I really don't have much else to say. There just wasn't a lot happening. Although, shout out to Rocky for being in the right place at the right time and putting that away. Hopefully for Sky Blue, they do get Kat back this week. They get Kerr back from Australia, and hopefully they're not as boring to watch as this game was. Oh, it was so bad.
Yeah.
So bad. I was so lucky I didn't have to live tweet that one because of it. Because half of my tweets have been like, when is something going to happen? Some variation of that. It was so boring. All right. Let's just move on, because it really wasn't much you should say. That game was bad, and let it stay. All right. So we're going to move on to our predictions. First game up, Chicago versus Houston on Lifetime. Karen, who you got?
I am going with Houston, and I'm going to say they're going to win 2-1.
I'm going with Chicago, but I'm going to go 1-0. I think because it's in Chicago, Red Stars usually do play pretty well at Toyota Park. Um, have to see which Houston is the real Houston. I have to give the edge to Chicago right now. So that's my pick. Washington Sky Blue reunion of one of the rivalry matches from last season.
I have them at a draw. I think it's going to be 1-1.
I got Sky Blue winning, but it's probably not going to be a huge score because Steph LeBay is awesome and Sky Blue has had some issues connecting offensively, so it's probably going to be like a 1-0. No, not a huge, not a high scoring game. Oh, here we go. Here's a good one. The Cascadia rivalry returns. Portland versus Seattle.
I really know. I know that I am being hopeful with this, but I'm going to say it's going to be a draw, and I'm going to say it's going to be 2-2 because I think that would be the most exciting match. And that's what I want, is an exciting match. I also want Seattle to win, but I want an exciting match. So 2-2.
I want an exciting match too. I'm also going for a draw. Now, Portland needs to show that they can do more than just rely on penalty kicks to get points. And Seattle, which one are you going to be this week, Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde?
Yeah, really.
Because they have been the most Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde team of the league this season. So, will the real Seattle please stand up? Which is one of the things I wrote this week. This is probably this is a match that I don't think we would have anticipated being good last year. Boston hosting Carolina.
I have Carolina winning 2-1, but I think that Boston is going to put up a really, really good fight. So watch out, Courage.
Yeah, I'm betting there are going to be some players who were there last year who are going to remember all of the butt whoopings they got from the when they were the Flash, when they got from the Courage. So I think they're going to be fired up, probably more than they would for other games. That being said, I'm still going with the Courage. This isn't bias. I just think they've proven that they are they've been the most complete team in the league throughout the first 3 games. They haven't had one game they're good, the next game they're not type of performance yet. No, it'll probably happen sometime this season. They'll have a game where they're just not good. I hope not, but it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to be this week, though. They're really firing on all cylinders, and I'll say 2-0. I think they'll get back to getting a shutout. As good as Boston was last week, it's a much stronger team they're facing this week. So we'll see what happens. Final game: Kansas City hosting Orlando.
Kansas City is going to beat Orlando 2-0. Boom.
Yeah, I'm also going for a Kansas City win. No, they haven't managed to score since they lost A-Rod, but they faced 2 very solid defensive teams in Chicago and Sky Blue, and Orlando has not looked solid defensively in any of their games. So I think this will be the game that gets them back on track and gets them at 3 points. So I'll say, I don't know, 1-0, 2-0 maybe. But yeah, I definitely got Kansas City getting this one. I hope they do because I don't want Orlando to finish last for reasons that aren't particularly positive to Orlando, but I don't see them winning this game. All right, so that is it. Karen, do you have any final thoughts on the week that was and the week that will be?
I do not.
All right. Trying to figure out how to word this without pissing somebody off. I don't want to have to make this a weekly plea, but for the love of all that is good and decent in this world, please, 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 fans. I'm looking at a specific group of fans. Please, if your girl gets put up for Save of the Week, don't vote for her just because she's your favorite player. I think they think that if they show all this support for her, it's gonna somehow convince Jill Ellis that she's the best goalkeeper and she should be the number one and blah 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 blah. All they're doing is turning what's could be a little fun thing into a joke, and the league can't afford to have things make them look like a joke. They have enough problems as it is. They don't need another one. Or maybe the system needs to be reworked. I don't know. But guess that's it for us. We have a pretty good viewer base coming in. Thank you to all 11 of you who are tuned in. We love each and every one of you. We're thankful you took time out of your schedules to watch us talk about soccer this week. We'll be back next week. Don't know what day or time, but we'll figure that out and get back to you. Until then, this has been another episode of Off the Post.